Hello, 7th grade. This is a homework video for homework number 10 for 7th grade math. This is not the pre-AP video, so this is if you are in Mrs. Booth's or Miss Pond's regular 7th grade math. All right, number 1. Which of the following is the solution for the inequality before? So solution means answer or answers. In inequalities, recall that we always have more than one answer. It's going to be anything less than or equal to, greater than or equal to. Okay. So in order to do this, you have to do the inverse operation. And inverse operation, it just means the opposite. And operation means add, subtract, multiply, or divide. Okay, so you're doing the opposite operation. And whenever we have two-step equations like this, we follow the rules of PEMDAS. However, we go backwards. Okay, some of you call it SADMED, but that's what you do. Okay, so instead of going this way, now we're going to go up this way, and we'll either add or subtract first, then second we multiply or divide. Okay, so looking at my inequality, that says 3 times x minus 4 less than negative 19. Okay, so since we do add or subtract first, and that subtract, we're going to do that first, and we're going to follow this rule, the inverse operation. So instead of take away 4, we're going to add 4. We're going to add 4 to both sides. Whatever we do to the left, we do to the right. We always do that in math. Whatever you do the inside, you do the outside. Whatever you do the bottom, you do to the top. Whatever you do the left, you do to the right. Okay? Has to be equivalent. Okay, so then we see a negative 4 and a positive 4 is 0 pair. We're left with 3 times x on the left is less than. Now, whenever you're adding and you have two different signs, I have a negative and a positive, you subtract and you keep the sign of the larger absolute value. So 19 take away 4 is 15. However, this is my larger absolute value, the 19, so I keep the sign of the negative. All right, then now we've done that, but we're not done because the whole goal here is to isolate our x. See how x is by itself in the answer choices? X has to be by itself here. Well, I have to get rid of this 3 by the x. And that x is being multiplied by 3. So now we do our second step. The opposite of multiply by 3 is divide by 3. Whatever I do to the left, I do to the right. 3 divided by 3 is just 1x. Less than 15 divided by 3 is 5. And if you recall our tic-tac-toe or a hashtag, which there's 3 positives. You could do it this way or this way, but it's 3 positives. If I have a negative and a positive, I get a negative answer. Tic-tac-toes, 3 in a row. Okay, you do 3 in a row. A negative times a positive is a negative. A negative divided by a positive is a negative. So since we have a negative and a positive, it's a negative 5. Therefore, the answer is that. Now, rarely do I give you guys the answers on here, but I felt that it was worth going over one time for you. So you have these rules, okay? And that's all you're going to do. Whenever you see an inequality or an equation, you're going to do it the same way. The only difference with an inequality and an equation, well, a couple differences. This has many solutions, and equation only has one solution. So this can be any number less than negative 5. So if I were to draw a number line, and here's my 0, and here's my negative 5, I would draw a circle on top, an open circle, because it doesn't include negative 5. And then it's any number less. So the arrow's pointing this way. If you forget, draw your inequality and put an arrow, and it's like, oh, it goes that way. So then I do this. So x is less than -5. So x can be -6, -7, -8, -9, all the way to infinity as long as it's less than -5. Okay? That's what I mean by it has multiple solutions. Okay? However, an equation is only going to have one answer. So if I were, say, now this is not the answer for this one, but say my answer was -5 here. If it equals -5, then I would represent that with a dot closed in on -5. And that's it. The answer is -5. The answer is any number less than -5. Okay? All right, so you're going to do the same thing to this guy. Difference, again, is it's an equation. You solve it the same way using PEMDAS. You do inverse operation. You add or subtract first, multiply or divide second. Okay? Number three. We are just matching the real life situation to what's going on here. So in here, you want to look at words, vocabulary that tells you, are you multiplying? Are you subtracting? Are you adding? What is the total? And things like that. Okay? So I'll help you out a little bit. However, I'm not going to give you the answer. Miss Holly had a gift card with a $365 balance. Okay, that implies that that's a total. It implies that. That's how much total, or what she started with. So maybe her beginning balance. So if you were to have a bank account, my balance could be when Mrs. Booth gets paid, I have so much money in my checking account. And after I pay my bills, then I no longer have that same balance because I have to take away to pay my bills. Or I could have a little bit of money in my checking account and then I get paid with my paycheck, and that would mean I would add to my balance. So your balance could be changing depending on are you adding or subtracting. So that's what we need to figure out. Are we adding and subtracting here? Okay, so $365 balance. She bought several CDs that cost $18 each. Each per every a. That implies multiplication. Sometimes it could be division, depending on the situation. After the purchase, her gift card balance was $185. Oh, let's see. Her balance was this. Now it's this. Think about, what does that tell you? What happened to her balance to go from here to here? Which equation can be used to determine the number of CDs D she purchased. So the CDs equal D. And here it says she bought several CDs that cost 18 each. So that would be 18 times D. Each means multiply, 18D. Okay, so that's enough help I'm going to give you on that one. Match it up, okay? Number 4, the relationship between the cost of a corsage and the number of flowers in the corsage is shown below. Which statement is true about the information in the table? Okay, so first thing you have to understand is when we look at this, they don't always label it X and Y. So we have to look at it, and like we've talked about in class, I have to decide which is my X value, which is my Y value. Because to get the constant rate of change, we're going to do the change in Y over the change in X. How does my Y change? How does my X change? So, do the number of flowers depend on the cost of the corsage? Or does the cost of the corsage depend on the number of flowers? Okay, so if you think about it, the bigger bouquet of flowers or something that you buy, the more money you're going to pay. So the cost of the corsage depends on how many flowers are in there. And remember, Y equals U. You depend on adults or your parents or your guardian to take care of you. So the Y is always you, and you are dependent. Dependent. Okay. Then after that, now that we know which is the X and the Y, and we know this is a formula, we just do what is the change in Y from here to here? What is the change in X from here to here? What are we adding to get there? So from here to here, we're adding $3.50. From here to here, we're adding 1 flour. Then we come over here and we set it up as the change in Y over the change in X. $3.50 is my change in Y. And what is my X? Okay. Then if you do this division, hopefully you can see what that should be. And then we can look through our answer choices. 1 or A. The information table is a constant rate of change of 3.5. Okay. Remember, this has many names. This is called change in Y over change in X. It's also called our CROC, or a constant rate of change. It's our M. Oh, that's terrible. It's our M. It's our slope. It's our rise over run. Remember, we learned that in class. Okay. So it's saying it's a constant rate of change of 3.5. The information in the table is a constant rate of change of 2. The information in the table has a constant rate of change of 7. The information in the table does not have a constant rate of change. Look at this and decide what it is. Number 5, last question. The total cost of ears of corn at the grocery store depends on how many ears of corn you buy. 5 ears cost $1.50 and 8 ears cost $2.40. What is the constant rate of change? So, again, CROC, rise over run, M, slope, change in Y over change in X. It's the same thing. Okay. We always put our Y value on top and our X value on the bottom. Okay. So if I look over here, we're talking about cost of corn. The cost of the corn depends on how many ears of corn you purchase. Okay. So the cost is my Y, and the number of ears is my X. So the cost goes on the top and the ears goes on the bottom. And by the way, dollars always go on the top. Okay. So then we have 2 different ones. We have, 5 for $1.50 and 8 for $2.40. So $1.50 is my cost that goes on the top. For 5 ears, that goes on the bottom. And then the other one says $2.40. That is my cost. It's my Y over my X, my Y over my X, and for 8 ears. Oops, having trouble writing that. Then I need to simplify it. I need to get a unit rate. A unit rate is always out of 1. The denominator has to be 1. So how do I go from 8 to 1? I divide by 8. Whatever I do to the bottom, I do to the top. Whatever you get up here is your unit rate. How do I go from 5 to 1? I divide by 5. Whatever I do to the bottom, I do to the top. Whatever you get over here is your unit rate. Your unit rate is also your constant rate of change. There you have it. And that's it. Guys, we have this week and next week for until report cards come out. Make sure you make up any work, get it done, come to tutoring, work with a buddy, talk with Miss Booth or Miss Pond, but make sure you get it done.